The rejected Alpha's mate. Rejected by the clan, yet chosen as the Alpha's mate. The night was bitterly cold when Elara stumbled through the edge of the Silver Fang territory, her breaths ragged, her heart pounding in her chest. The moon hung low and full, spilling its silver glow over the forest that no longer felt like home. She had once belonged here, raised among the wolves of the Silver Fang clan. But belonging was a fragile thing, easily shattered with a single word. Rejected. The word had echoed in her ears only hours ago, spoken by the elders who decided her fate with cold indifference. They told her she was unworthy, cursed with weakness, a liability to the pack. Her wolf had cried within her, howling in anguish at the cruel severance. But no matter how loud her soul screamed, no one listened. She was cast out. And so she ran, away from the accusing eyes of her people, away from the shame that burned hotter than fire. Elara's feet carried her blindly into the depths of the dark forest, where shadows stretched like claws and the cries of night creatures filled the silence. Each step felt heavier than the last, the rejection weighing down her very spirit. But as the night deepened, something else stirred in the air, an energy that prickled against her skin, ancient and powerful. The wind shifted, carrying a scent she didn't recognize yet couldn't ignore. It was warm, commanding, threaded with the faint musk of pine and earth. The scent of dominance. The scent of an alpha. Her wolf stirred restlessly, pulling her forward. Elara stumbled into a clearing, and there he was. A figure standing beneath the moonlight, broad-shouldered, tall, with dark hair that glistened silver where the moon kissed it. His eyes, sharp and piercing, glowed like molten amber, locking onto hers with an intensity that rooted her to the ground. "Who trespasses on my land?" His voice rumbled, deep and low, vibrating through the clearing. Elara's lips parted, but no words came. She could only stare, caught between fear and awe. The man before her radiated power, not just of a leader, but of something far more primal. Her wolf whimpered, bowing instinctively within her, recognizing what her mind had yet to grasp. This was Kaelen, Alpha of the Bloodmoon clan, a rival pack known for their ruthlessness and strength. His reputation alone was enough to send fear rippling through weaker wolves. Yet standing before him now, Elara felt something different. Not just fear, but an inexplicable pull that tightened her chest and made her pulse race. Kaelen stepped closer, his gaze never leaving her face. "You reek of sorrow," he murmured, his tone softer now, though no less commanding. "And of rejection." Her throat tightened. I was cast out," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Silverfangs no longer claim me." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or something darker, deeper. He circled her slowly, the predator studying his prey, yet there was no malice in his movements. Only curiosity, and something that made her skin tingle wherever his gaze lingered. "Rejected," he repeated, almost tasting the word. Fools. They did not see what stood before them. Elara's heart thudded wildly. She wanted to ask what he meant, but her courage faltered under the weight of his presence. Instead, she lowered her gaze, expecting him to dismiss her as the others had. But then Kaelen's hand reached out, his fingers brushing her chin, lifting her face back up to meet his eyes. The touch was startlingly gentle for a man whose very aura screamed danger. "Look at me, Elara," he said, his voice a command wrapped in velvet. She did. And in that moment, the world shifted. Her wolf surged forward, pressing against the confines of her chest, howling in recognition. The bond snapped into place with a force that stole her breath. Heat rushed through her veins, her skin burning as though marked by fire. Her knees nearly buckled as the truth crashed over her. SWTHRT. Mate. Kaelen's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile, as if he too had felt the same undeniable pull. "Fate works in strange ways," he murmured. "Rejected by them, yet chosen by me." Elara's mind reeled. The Bloodmoon Alpha, her mate? It was unthinkable. The clans had been enemies for generations. And yet the bond didn't lie. The threads of destiny had bound her to him, whether she wanted it or not. "Why me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Kaelen's eyes burned brighter, his hand still resting lightly beneath her chin. "Because the moon has given you to me, and I do not question the moon's will." For the first time since her rejection, Elara's heart stirred with something other than pain. Hope flickered in the ashes of her despair, fragile but undeniable. She didn't know what future awaited her here, under the gaze of the Blood Moon Alpha, but she knew one thing with certainty. Her story was not over. It had only just begun. The days that followed were unlike anything Elara had ever known. Within the Blood Moon clan, every glance she received was laced with curiosity, suspicion, or outright hostility. Outsiders were rarely tolerated, much less one from the rival Silverfangs. Yet none dared challenge her openly, for Kaelen's claim was absolute.
His word was law.
But acceptance was far from simple. Elara often found herself walking the fine line between belonging and exile, her presence questioned by the pack's warriors, her strength doubted by the women who whispered behind her back. She could feel their stares like knives on her skin, each one a reminder that she did not belong here any more than she had in Silverfang. Still, Kaelen remained unshaken. His presence by her side was a shield against their doubts, though his touch was rare, his words often guarded. He was a man of restraint, his emotions a fortress few could penetrate. Yet in the quiet moments, when the world fell away, his eyes betrayed a fire that matched the bond between them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Elara found herself standing at the edge of the river that cut through Blood Moon territory. The water flowed steadily, carrying with it the whispers of the forest. She closed her eyes, letting the sound soothe the turmoil within her. "Do you regret it?" a voice asked behind her. She turned to find Kaelen watching her, his expression unreadable. "Regret what?" she asked softly. "Being here. Being bound to me." Her breath caught at the raw honesty in his question. He was the Alpha, feared by many, yet here he stood, laying bare a vulnerability she hadn't expected. Elara stepped closer, her gaze steady. "I regret nothing. I was cast aside by those I loved, broken by their rejection. But fate gave me you." Her voice faltered, but she pressed on. "I don't understand it fully, but my heart does not regret." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then Kaelen reached out, his hand brushing against hers, fingers intertwining. The bond flared between them, hot and unyielding. "You are stronger than you know, Elara," he murmured. "And one day, they will see what I already do." The words sank into her like balm on an open wound, healing cracks she hadn't realized still bled. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe she could belong. Not because of a clan's acceptance, but because her mate had chosen her. But destiny was never so kind. That night, a howl shattered the stillness of the forest. It was sharp, mournful, and filled with warning. Elara's blood ran cold as the sound echoed across the Blood Moon territory. The warriors stirred, their eyes snapping toward the horizon, their bodies tensing for battle. Kaelen's grip on her hand tightened before he released her. His face hardened, his alpha mask slipping into place. "Stay here," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. But Elara's heart rebelled. The howl wasn't just a warning. Her wolf recognized it as a call of challenge.
Someone was coming for them.
Moments later, the forest erupted with a thunder of paws and snarls. Shadows burst through the trees, the air thick with the scent of wolves she knew too well, Silverfang. Her breath caught. Her clan, the very people who had cast her aside, had crossed into Blood Moon territory. And they hadn't come in peace. Kaelen shifted in a blur, his massive wolf form exploding forward, black as midnight with eyes burning like molten fire. His pack followed, wolves of every size charging into the fray with snarls and snapping jaws. Elara's wolf clawed inside her, desperate to break free, but fear held her back. These were her kin, the wolves she had once called family. Could she truly bare her fangs against them? A sudden snarl ripped through the chaos, and she spotted him. Darius, the new Silver Fang Alpha. He was tall, broad, his fur pale as frost, his eyes as cold as the night. His gaze locked on hers across the battlefield, and his lips curled into a sneer. "You should have stayed gone, Elara," he spat, his voice laced with contempt. "You shame us with every breath you take." Her heart squeezed painfully, the words striking deep. But before she could answer, Kaelen lunged between them, his massive wolf snapping with lethal fury. His growl was a promise, low and guttural.
Mine.
The battle raged. Wolves clashed, their howls filling the night with a symphony of violence. Blood stained the earth, the air heavy with the iron scent of it. And still Elara stood frozen, torn between two worlds, one that had rejected her and one that demanded she fight for her place. But then she saw it. One of the Silver Fang warriors, a hulking brute with gray fur, had broken past the Bloodmoon line. He lunged straight for Kaelen's unguarded flank, jaws wide, teeth gleaming. Her wolf roared within her. With a cry that ripped from the depths of her soul, Elara shifted. The transformation tore through her, bones snapping, fur bursting forth as her body gave way to the beast inside. In moments, she stood on four legs, her coat a striking silver streaked with black, her eyes glowing with a fierce light. She launched herself at the attacking wolf, colliding with him midair. Their bodies slammed into the ground, claws raking, teeth snapping. The taste of blood filled her mouth, but she fought with a ferocity she had never known. For Kaelen, for herself. The Bloodmoon wolves howled as one, their voices rising in unison at the sight of her. Kaelen, still locked in battle with Darius, caught her gaze for the briefest moment. Pride burned in his eyes. The fight was brutal, but Elara's wolf was no longer weak. She was no longer the girl rejected and cast aside. She was fire and fury, a storm unleashed. And when her jaws closed around the throat of the wolf who threatened her mate, she did not hesitate. The forest went still as the Silver Fang warrior fell lifeless beneath her. A hush swept the battlefield. Even Darius paused, his cold eyes narrowing as he looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time. "This changes nothing," he snarled, though his voice lacked its earlier certainty. With a final glare at Kaelen, he turned and howled for retreat. The Silver Fang wolves melted back into the shadows, their defeat undeniable. When the last echo of their retreat faded, Elara stood panting, her fur streaked with blood, her chest heaving with exhaustion. Slowly, she shifted back, collapsing to her knees in the clearing. Kaelen was there in an instant, shifting back into his human form, his body scarred and bloodied but unbowed. He knelt before her, his hands cupping her face, his eyes blazing. "You fought," he said softly, reverently. "Not as a castaway, not as an outcast. You fought as my mate." Tears burned her eyes, but she did not look away. "I fought because I will not lose you. Not to them. Not to anyone." The bond between them ignited, burning brighter than ever, searing through her every vein. Around them, the Bloodmoon wolves howled in triumph, their voices carrying across the night. And for the first time, Elara felt it, not suspicion, not disdain, but acceptance. The pack had seen her strength. They had seen her loyalty. And they could no longer deny that she was one of them. Kaelen pressed his forehead to hers, his breath warm against her lips. "They rejected you, Elara," he whispered. "But I claim you, now and always." The words wrapped around her like a vow, binding tighter than any chain. She had been cast aside by one clan, only to be chosen by fate itself. And as the moon bathed them in its silver glow, Elara knew this was where she belonged. Not in the shadows of rejection, but at the side of her mate, as the Alpha's chosen. But in the silence that followed, a chill crept down her spine. The Silverfang's retreat had been too swift, too deliberate. And as Kaelen rose to his feet, his eyes narrowing at the horizon, she realized with a shuddering certainty, this battle was only the beginning. The following nights were uneasy in the Bloodmoon camp. Patrols doubled, Warriors moved with restless tension, and whispers filled the air like smoke. Though they had repelled Silverfang's attack, everyone sensed it had only been a warning, a probing strike to test their strength. Elara walked among them, still feeling the eyes that followed her every step. But something had shifted since the battle. Where there had once been disdain, now there was watchfulness, respect, even in some of the gazes. She had proven herself with blood and claws, yet the lingering question weighed heavily. Could a wolf born of their enemy truly stand as the Alpha's mate? Kaelen gave her no chance to doubt. He stood beside her openly, his hand often resting on her shoulder, his gaze burning with quiet pride. But behind that pride, Elara saw it, the worry he carried like a second skin. He knew Silverfang would not rest. One evening, under the glow of the waxing moon, Kaelen summoned his inner circle. Warriors and elders gathered in the great hall carved from stone, the firelight painting their faces with shadows. Elara sat near him, her presence earning more than one raised brow. "They will come again," Kaelen said, his deep voice carrying through the chamber. "Darius will not suffer defeat in silence. He will strike harder, and he will not stop until Bloodmoon falls." Murmurs rippled through the wolves. One elder, an old she-wolf with piercing gray eyes, spoke sharply. "And what of her?" She gestured toward Elara. "Is it not her presence that has stirred this? Silverfang fights harder because their discarded pup now lies in our Alpha's bed." The word stung, but Elara kept her head high. The bond between her and Kaelen thrummed in her chest, steadying her. Kaelen's gaze cut to the elder, his tone a growl. "They fight because they are weak, not because of her. Elara is mine, chosen by the moon. To question her place is to question me." The hall fell silent at his words, the challenge in them undeniable. Still, Elara could feel the undercurrent of tension. Acceptance would not come so easily. Later that night, as the firelight dimmed and the camp grew quiet, Elara walked alone to the river's edge. The water shimmered silver under the moon, but her reflection looked back at her with troubled eyes. Was she truly strong enough to stand at Kaelen's side? Or would she be the fracture that split his pack? The soft rustle of movement behind her broke her thoughts. She turned, her wolf bristling, but the figure who stepped into the moonlight made her breath catch. Nerissa, once her closest friend in Silverfang, now standing before her with eyes full of conflict. "Elara," Nerissa whispered, her voice trembling. "I had to find you. You don't understand what Darius is planning." Her pulse quickened. "Then tell me." Nerissa's gaze darted to the shadows, as though fearing unseen ears. "Darius will not rest until he crushes Bloodmoon, but it is not Kaelen he fears, it is you. He believes the moon gave you to him first, that you were meant to be Silverfang's Luna. He says you betrayed fate by rejecting him." Elara's chest tightened. Darius, her once betrothed, the match arranged by their elders before she was even grown. She had never loved him, never felt the bond between them, and when he rose as Alpha, she thought herself free of that fate. But now, he plans to use it, Nerissa continued, desperation lacing her words. "He says if he can claim you, the moon will bless Silverfang with invincible strength. He will come for you, Elara. Not for Kaelen, not for Bloodmoon you." The world tilted beneath her feet. A chill swept over her skin, colder than the river's touch. She had been rejected once, chosen again, but now she stood at the center of a war she had never sought. "Why tell me this?" Elara asked softly, her voice trembling. Nerissa's eyes glistened. "Because once you were my sister in all but blood. And because if Darius takes you, he will destroy us all." Before Elara could respond, the snap of a twig cracked the air. Kaelen stepped into the clearing, his amber eyes hard as fire. His gaze flicked between them, settling on Nerissa with suspicion. "You should not be here," he growled. Nerissa bowed her head, trembling under his dominance. "I only came to warn her. Believe me or not, Alpha, but Darius will stop at nothing. Protect her, or you will lose more than a mate. You will lose everything." With that, she melted back into the shadows, leaving only silence behind. Kaelen strode forward, gripping Elara's shoulders, his touch both grounding and fierce. Did she speak truth? Elara nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. He thinks I was meant to be his Luna. He'll come for me. For a moment, Kaelen's control slipped, fury flashing in his eyes. Over my dead body, he snarled. He will not touch you. You are mine. But even as he said it, Elara felt the weight of destiny pressing against them. Darius would not stop, and sooner or later, she would be forced to face him, not only as the Alpha of Silverfang, but as the ghost of the life she had been denied. That night, sleep eluded her. She lay awake in Kaelen's arms, her heart pounding, her wolf restless. The bond between them was strong, yes, but was it strong enough to withstand the storm that was coming? For in the depths of her soul, a whisper stirred. A whisper that spoke of sacrifice, of battles not yet fought, of love tested in fire. And Elara knew her true trial had only just begun. The days that followed were thick with unease. Patrols reported strange movements along the borders, shadows slipping just out of sight, the scent of Silverfang lingering like smoke after fire. The Bloodmoon wolves grew restless, their howls sharp, their tempers short. Kaelen never left Elara's side. His protective shadow followed her through every moment, his hand lingering at her waist, his eyes constantly scanning the trees. Yet for all his strength, Elara felt the storm creeping closer, each breath heavy with the weight of what was coming. Then, on the night of the full moon, it happened. The Bloodmoon clan had gathered in the clearing for the sacred moon rites, their voices raised in song to honor the goddess who bound wolf to wolf, mate to mate. The fire burned bright at the center, its glow painting their faces gold. But as Elara lifted her eyes to the glowing orb above, a chill crept over her skin. The air shifted. The forest stilled. And then came the howl, low, guttural, filled with hunger and rage. Silverfang. The attack was swift, shadows bursting from the trees, claws and teeth flashing in the firelight. Bloodmoon warriors shifted instantly, their howls rising in defiance as the battle clashed around the sacred fire. Elara's wolf surged within her, ready to fight, but before she could shift, a pair of strong arms seized her from behind. A cloth pressed to her mouth, laced with something bitter, something that burned her senses. She thrashed, clawing at her captor, but her limbs grew heavy, her vision blurring. The last thing she saw before darkness swallowed her was Kaelen's furious roar splitting the night. When she awoke, the world was colder. Rough stone pressed against her skin, the air damp and heavy with the scent of moss. She was in a cavern, torches flickering along the walls, their flames casting eerie shadows. And there he was, Darius. He stood tall before her, his pale hair gleaming in the firelight, his eyes cold as ice yet burning with twisted hunger. His lips curled into a smile that made her stomach turn. At last, he murmured, stepping closer. The moon has delivered you to me. Elara pulled against the chains that bound her wrists, fury rising to replace her fear. You have no claim on me, Darius. The moon chose another. His smile faltered for the briefest moment, then hardened.
No.
The elders promised you to me before Kaelen ever drew breath. You were mine before fate played its cruel trick, and I will not allow him to steal what was destined. Her wolf snarled within her, defiance burning hot. Destiny is not chains. It is choice, and I choose him. The words struck like a blade, and for a heartbeat, pain flickered in his eyes. But then the mask of cruelty returned, his voice sharp as steel. Then I will break you until you have no choice. He reached out, his hand brushing her cheek. She jerked away, spitting her rage into his face. You can bind my body, Darius, but you will never touch my soul. A growl rumbled from his throat, his wolf pressing beneath his skin. We will see. The cavern trembled with a sudden roar. The sound was deafening, furious, filled with a power that shook the very earth. Kaelen. The chains around her rattled as the clash of battle erupted outside the cavern. The scent of Bloodmoon warriors filled the air, mingling with the stench of Silverfang blood. Her heart leapt. He had come. He had not stopped, not faltered. The entrance of the cavern exploded inward, rock-shattering as a massive black wolf burst through, eyes glowing like fire. Kaelen, his snarl echoed like thunder, his gaze locking onto Darius with murderous intent. Darius shifted instantly, his frost-white wolf emerging in a flash of claws and fur. The two alphas collided with the force of storms, their bodies slamming against the stone walls, teeth snapping, growls tearing through the cavern. Elara struggled against her chains, her wrists raw, her wolf howling in frustration. She couldn't just watch. She had to fight. Closing her eyes, she reached deep within, calling on the bond that tied her to Kaelen. The fire of it surged through her veins, burning brighter, stronger. With a cry that was both human and wolf, she pulled, and the chain shattered, falling to the ground with a crash. Her wolf exploded free, silver and black fur gleaming in the firelight. She lunged into the fray, her teeth sinking into Darius's flank. His howl of rage filled the cavern, his body jerking beneath her grip. Kaelen seized the opening, his massive jaws clamping onto Darius's throat. The white wolf thrashed, claws raking, but Kaelen's strength was relentless, his fury unyielding. With a final, brutal snap, the cavern fell silent. Darius's body crumpled to the stone, his eyes dull, his reign ended. Elara staggered back, panting, her fur slick with blood. Kaelen shifted, his chest heaving, his body torn with wounds. Yet when his eyes found hers, the fire in them was not dimmed. He crossed to her, his hands cupping her face, his forehead pressing to hers. "Never again," he whispered hoarsely. "No one will ever take you from me." Her tears mingled with his blood, her voice breaking as she answered. "And I will never leave your side. Not in life, not in death." The bond flared between them, brighter than the fire, stronger than the chains that had once bound her. Fate had tested them, broken them, forged them anew in blood and battle. And in that cavern, with the moonlight spilling through the shattered stone above, Elara knew the truth. She was no longer the rejected outcast of Silverfang. She was the chosen mate of Kaelen, Alpha of Bloodmoon. And beside him, she would rise not just as his Luna, but as a queen born of fire and shadow, destined to lead a pack that was stronger than any enemy, stronger than fate itself. For love had made her what rejection never could, unbreakable,